Hello, everybody. My name's Jakari. This is my first YouTube video. I'm very excited to get started. Very excited to talk about what I have to talk about today. I apologize for the low production value. I'm kind of working with what I got. This is indeed a butter knife. I know this may sound like a bunch of jargon. I promise I'll try to keep the Navy jargon down as much as I can. I decided it needed a little afro on it. But anyways, there's been some thoughts I've been chewing on for quite a while now. I reckon years, maybe the entire time I was in the Navy. Just for some context, I was in the Navy for 8 years, active duty. I was primarily in the aviation maintenance sphere for most of my career. I did a bunch of deployments. I served as an LPO. Long story short, I did pretty good. I had a pretty good career. But I think that's enough of that. I don't want to get into credential semantics and throwing things at your face, comparing or whatever. I think that's pointless. That is a point I will talk about later as well. Credential semantics. Anyways, I found myself in a lot of contradictions living that lifestyle. I won't claim that my experience was universal. It's no secret that mileage may vary drastically from person to person. Careers can vary wildly. It's far too broad a net to cast. I don't want to waste time on those details. But there are some aspects of the military that I do believe are universal, regardless of what job you have or where you're stationed or whatever. Namely, I mean, its effect on your identity and what I believe is the greater challenge to ascertain your identity in the military. For the sake of brevity, I'm not really interested in talking too in depth about my thoughts on the huge subject of what identity even is, nor do I think I can even give you the guide on how to develop your identity. Identity and meaning, these two concepts are intrinsically tied, but both are inherently subjective. Today, in this video, I'm more interested in talking about the potential objective consequences that the military can give you in regards to cultivating your identity. The symptoms I see running rampant, the symptoms that left a profound impact on me. Now, why am I relating highly subjective, broad concepts like identity, who you are, what you stand for, to the military? Well, I lived a lot of struggles related to these ideas. I embodied many of the cliches of the military. As much as I was unconscious of this through most of my experience, I think a part of me knew the whole time that, in a sense, it was killing me. I feel so strongly about this because the military was my world and my life for many years. Like many others, at one point, it was the only thing I felt I had, the only thing I felt I could be proud of. It sounds so straightforward, though, right? On the surface, at least. Everyone is told when signing up that you are signing away your soul to a contract, to the government. And yeah, a lot of people who are in joke about that, but most people who join either join young and naive or join to seek a new life. We really didn't understand the gravity of a decision like that. We think we did, but in truth, most didn't. I claim what I think is obvious, that perhaps most who join don't have a clue what they're really doing. I certainly didn't. The thought was that perhaps those answers could be found in the military. Thus, with all this in mind to start, I think there's a case to say that the military can easily damn someone to a life of conventions and dissatisfaction. If you've served or are serving, you're probably very well aware that the vast majority of service members are genuinely unhappy, turning to the drink or other vices, or you just see it in their behavior. Yet you see them serving a full 20 plus years, generally speaking, for money or the benefits or not knowing what else to do with themselves. Totally willing to risk heart and soul for profit. They can be bought. Now, on the surface, it would seem at first glance that this unhappiness is surface level, a mere reaction to the tough circumstances that military life can be. But I insist it's much deeper than that. Now, of course, I do understand there's a lot of nuance to this. I do understand that there are innumerable factors and exceptions at play, like if someone has a family to take care of. This video is not me declaring that joining the military is a mistake or staying in is a mistake. Circumstances vary, but I just hate to see so many people give in to what's easy. I hate seeing others suppress themselves. I I hate seeing other people give into their doubts or succumbing to the fear of the unknown, laziness, things that if you give into, your sense of self could be absolutely shattered. Like I touched on before, the general target audience for the military, the poor, the lost, the downtrodden, and the implications behind that. Many who served felt they had no other choice. It was a decision based on survival. We can go on and on about how that factor alone can incentivize somebody to make the military their entire identity. It saved them. Think about how many times you've seen someone seemingly fully embody the phrases, I'm a chief, I'm a supervisor, etc., etc., or even further beyond just the military. I'm a mother, I'm a business owner, I'm an introvert. Even if the military saved them, they have outsourced and minimized themselves to external ideologies. Everyone is complex, living a complex life, teeming with contradictions and ambiguity. And to try to narrow yourself and your life to as black and white as possible is so dangerous. This framework of thinking, biasing these factors not as pieces of your identity, but the foundation of it, implies their entire sense of self is based on ready made paths, or that meaning can only come to them through extraordinary events like getting promoted, even having a child. It's a passive way of living that inherently ignores you, it borrows meaning. What I'm talking about is nothing exclusive to the military, of course. You can find this abandoning of oneself everywhere. But I think the military is a prime example of a system that guardrails you down this destructive path of life if you allow it. Military culture encourages this, rewards it even. It gives you medals and empty, pre written good job speeches. Only really in passing is there any real acceptance of the sacrifices you have to make, the relationships that are strained, the emotional baggage you carry. It's no secret that mental health issues and suicide are par for the course for active duty and veterans, especially those in combat roles. It's undeniable. It's often the number one killer for service members outside of war. I have nothing to hide. I struggled with it myself for a very long time. Anxiety, depression, even suicidal ideation and attempts. I insist that this act of abandoning yourself is part of all that. And when you're constantly entrenched in an environment that validates that abandoning, you begin to doubt that gnawing sense in you that tells you that you're not aligned with your core identity. You begin to doubt everything about you, everything you stand for. You lose trust in yourself. The famous French existentialist Jean Paul Sartre described what I'm talking about as bad faith. This bias that most people have to deny themselves, to define themselves strictly by predefined social roles, seeing themselves as fixed. This is a common phenomenon, but what's special about the military is its particular rewarding and conditioning of this behavior. In my experience, I was led to believe the best way to succeed is to shut up, do what you're told, get qualified, checks in the block, and don't stir the pot too much, etc. In a sense, when you frame it like that, military life is terribly easy. Your whole path is written for you. Where you go, what you should be doing, how you should be doing that. It's easy in the sense that you really don't have to think. You just have to adapt to the forces beyond your control. It encourages opportunistic behavior. Like I mentioned before, it feeds this survival based mindset that someone who joined likely has. Even before I really reflected on this, I subconsciously felt I was living a false life, taking the easy path, the predetermined path. I felt I was never being true to myself. To succeed in the military, you basically only have to follow standards, much like what's advertised in the more macro cultural advice you hear telling you to have a kid, buy the house, get the car, get the job. But most of you watching, I know, have found friction somewhere in these predetermined paths. Yet paradoxically, likely from social pressures, you may have found yourself pursuing them anyway. We have all done this in some way and at some point. None more so, of course, than these cliches you'll meet in the military. Think of a young guy, recently joined, who doesn't really think about it much, but gets married really quick. He gets a house. He likes fast cars or motorcycles, and he parties all the time, and he likes to drink a lot. And he's kind of mediocre at his job. And another cliche, the senior military guy with multiple divorces cheats on his current wife with the brand new check in. He's always excited to go on deployment and leave his family. His gut's probably hanging over his belt. Uh, he still likes to drink, and he also kind of sucks at his job. This guy is basically the grown up version of the former cliche I brought up. The aspiration is clear between these extremes: make money and buy stuff. And, well, honestly, these are really not extremes. They're not fringe cases. You see this all over the place. This is the quintessential lost soul of the military. It's like living in a nearly unconscious state, fully adopting what's seen around entirely because it works. There's such a lack of intention. It's like being a passenger in your own life. And I guess a little side note, these are the people who insist on advertising their military service at every opportunity, as if that's all they have to be proud of. You can see it in how they speak, how they dress, and so on, ad nauseum. Ugh, to stop myself from rambling too much on stereotypical military person motifs, using these two cliches as a common path in the military, a very regular path, I'll just say it's obvious that in this system, to succeed, the only quality you need to have is compliance, at least generally speaking. That is all. Everything else is optional and circumstantial. One thing I want to mention is you can easily be fooled into using your service and sacrifice as a crutch for not actually being anyone. I mean, it's hard to detach your sense of self from your suffering. It's too common to marry yourself to your suffering so that it has meaning. It's so you don't have to confront that potentially all you've done was for nothing. Not nothing in the sense that what you've done has no worth. It does have worth. Nothing in the sense that 4 years in, 10 years in, 20 years, you still don't have a fairly firm grasp on who you are outside of the uniform. The military makes it very easy to stay in and continue deluding yourself with chasing money and surface pleasures, and it's more difficult to get out. It wants you to not think about that realistically. It's instinctual to get, say, 10 years in and fall victim to the sunk cost fallacy. It asserts that you deny inquiry about yourself and it. Keep your eyes on the shiny rock. Just make it to retirement. This is where I'll mention another trouble I see. Uh, Despite this idea that you're sold, that we're all family in the military, the greatest antagonizer of a service member is another service member. There's this macho and overly self sacrificing culture surrounding the military, which I find so embarrassing. You'll find that active duty and veterans both often openly compare their struggles to others. Oh, y'all can't complain because I had it harder than you. This is so reductive. Again, leveraging their suffering as justification alone. It's just some weird bid for superiority or validation that their struggle mattered. That way of thinking encourages apathy and stagnation. The struggle did matter. Your struggle did matter. But it's not all that mattered. All of what I just talked about, the characters or the stereotypes I mentioned, uh, it's just more signs of how devastating the military lifestyle can be, how deeply it can embed itself into your sense of identity, even years beyond when the contract is over. I'm absolutely not saying there is an opportunity to excel or make your own way, and I'm not saying that it's meaningless, not at all. In fact, I'm very proud of what I accomplished in the military. But back to those cliches I used as examples. They live the dangerous path of seeing their military service as them instead of a part of them. They are the perfect sailor, soldier, marine, what have you. Not the most ideal, but the most attainable. That's what makes it perfect. It's easy to be nobody in the military and still succeed. It's hard to stand for something and still succeed. Those people are far and few between, but they're there. Don't get me wrong, they're there. I won't dive too deep onto that. You know, that's a whole other can of worms, but it's part of why I think nearly the entirety of the military is a dog and pony show. All aesthetics, all inauthenticity, broadcasting to you that you matter, even if by design you can't. It's the military. You must be replaceable. The wheels must keep turning with or without you. It's encouraging you to look at yourself not as an individual, but as a sailor, a soldier, marine. Of course, right? We all knew this somewhere within us. But I really do think this path is so incredibly dangerous. Now, of course, I'm talking a lot about individuality, and, the counterpoint could be, do I believe in a general sense of service? Do I believe in engaging in communities, helping people? Of course. I advocate. I think everyone could learn a few lessons by working with their local homeless shelter or interacting with their community, protesting, advocating, whatever, but with sincerity, not to look better on your evaluation or your resume. But to me, to give your whole being to this machine, to neglect your sense of self entirely, to leave any aspect of the self unexplored and underdeveloped, is the ultimate betrayal to yourself. Ignoring the doubts that inherently arise when in a career like this, uh, it's a grave mistake. Dostoevsky's famous quote from Crime and Punishment, "Your worst sin is that you have destroyed and betrayed yourself for nothing," comes to mind. Whether consciously or not, I think everyone has some sense of intuition that understands that. You can sense it too, can't you? The questions that arise: how much of myself am I sacrificing? And is it too much? Am I content with where I am and where I'm going, truthfully, from the deepest part of myself that I can possibly express? Do I question? And do I question those questions? Thoughts like these intrinsically contrast with what the military demands of you. Don't get me wrong, the military itself doesn't even deny this. It frames your compliance and sacrifice as entirely a virtue. The machine wants you to do this. Very quickly, we could spiral into moral, ethical, and political debates over this, but let's avoid that for now. Maybe I'll say you should just read Major General Smedley Butler's War is a Racket. As much as we try to deny it and focus on the little nuances, convincing ourselves that we are autonomous, it demands obedience. It demands your denial of the self. I found so many fallacies that I deluded myself into, looked at my surface successes, my wealth, my awards, but deep down I knew who I think I am, what I believe in. If I was not structuring my life around that at all times, I felt the many awards and victories I earned meant nothing when faced with my sense of self betrayal. I'm stuttering thinking about it, man. It's so fresh for me still. Another aspect that influences this muddying of true inner development is the speed of military life. The military dominates you. You are 24/7 a service member. You know that. You could be so caught up in the whirlwind of responsibility, huge responsibility at that, lives could literally be at stake and in your hands. You can get deployed tomorrow. And in this whirlwind, it's all too easy to just go with the motions. I just knew that if I didn't pursue the things that I want from life, it's all a lie. Everything I'm doing is a lie. And it may be contradictory of me to say, but in a vacuum, perhaps that's exactly how the military should operate to do its job. By no means am I saying I know a better way for the military as an institution. There's an argument to be made that that's exactly how it should be to function. But I encourage you to look at where you stand, discern if you're willing to partake in that and represent that. Does the military lifestyle align with your values, and are you sure of that? And you see it everywhere. The speed of the military, as much as everyday life, is so consuming and lacks the stillness required to do the hard inner work. It often doesn't force you into stillness, into silence. So you have to consciously choose that, which is very difficult in that circumstance. I sincerely believe that you must express that freedom, whatever that may be for you, to live a dignified life. But oh, trust me, I get it. I get it. How easy it is to ignore that voice in you that calls for attention when you're focused on surviving, cracking open 2 energy drinks or more just to get through the day. Now, one can absolutely 100% still cultivate and discover their identity in the military. 100%, 100%. Just as anyone in any other circumstance can. It's just an incredible challenge to overcome in this circumstance, and even harder to structure your life according to your identity. Everything seems leveraged to prevent you from diving deep into your heart of hearts. It's impeccably designed to prevent you from evaluating yourself as to what truly matters to you, as to what is truly meaningful to you. No matter all the sacrifice and honest hard work, you find that those who live dominated by this lifestyle, they lived by what was familiar and not by what truly moved them. It, it upsets me greatly to see it. I'm sure if you're watching this and have no relation to the military, much of what I said may seem deathly similar to what you're experiencing or have experienced. Again, the military is just a great example of an institution that attacks your agency, but it's only one of many external contrivances that can blind you from participating in and embracing active and authentic living. In a way, it's really no different from, a soul sucking corporation. There's so much more to be said, so many more observations to have, so much so that I feel like I'd be doing them a disservice, by cramming them into this video. It's already going on pretty long. There's so many angles we could discuss for hours. Perhaps they're topics for another day. We'll see. But for now, I really want to say this. Ultimately, only you can discern your sense of self, the human that you are. It sounds so obvious, but it really has to be said. And I'm not trying to discount external factors, everything else you see out there from whatever you like, studying the humanities, advice from your friends, mentors, or family, and hopefully this video can be of assistance in finding your answers, for sure. But I caution to think that anyone can give you the blueprint. That's not what I'm here to do for you today. Like I said at the beginning of the video, frankly, it's not something I can do for you. Identity is possibly one of, if not the most individual and amorphous concepts that we face. But this intent to nurture it, to seek it, it's something I believe is indispensable to finding fulfillment and encouraging holistic living. My mic is about to die, but anyways, if you allow externalities to define you internally with no conscious decision, no concise decision of yes, you've made a grave mistake. You hear these generic, vague isms and phrases thrown around on your mom's Facebook and stuff, like be yourself. But I promise you, yourself is not only going to be found around you. Much of it is already in you, but you have to take the time to seek it. You have to be willing to be uncomfortable. You have to be willing to sit in that metaphorical breaking open. It's by no means an easy process, and never think it's a finite process that you finish. But what I'm saying in this video is that you need to start, despite whatever situation you're in. The United States military is a monolith, massive entity with a lot of good that you can extract from it. But at the end of the day, it stands 10 toes down on compliance, regulation, and agency. It's a bit of an oxymoron. I don't regret my experience. It gave me a lot. It got me to where I am today, and I'm grateful for it, of course. But I recognized how much it took from me as well, and I had to go. From my point of view, in my experience, anything further would only make me a better sailor, and not a better person. I think many in the service can relate to a lot of my sentiment. Probably many more who got out, probably came to similar conclusions. But too many ignore those questions that come from a part of you that you almost can't explain with language. My friends, I really hope I'm not sounding preachy or virtuous. I implore you to question everything. Embrace learning, curiosity, ambiguity. Embrace the bad as much as the good. Live in that gray area that life is. Look into yourself in those quiet and solitary moments. Focusing on that way of thought helps me understand that the advice, be happy, is too fleeting, too loose, based on an emotion, which is infinitely variable. Rather, I think the goal is to be content. It's a state of being that doesn't hold you to one moment, one emotion. It holds you to all moments, all emotion. that's why I have so much to say about this topic. I hope you found this video interesting or entertaining. I certainly had a lot of fun making it. I had a great time. This was really cool. I've been wanting to do this for a long time. Uh, I recognize that I'm leaving a lot of room for interpretations, questions, not a lot of answers. I just had to get something out. I just had to speak. I felt this gnawing need to, and I can't ignore that. You know, this flurry of thought and ideas is something I want to continuously encourage in myself. And I hope my excitement for this and my excitement for life brushes off on you too. This excitement, it really would not be a thing if I just, for me, I'm not speaking for you, I'm not speaking for everybody, but for me, if I had stayed in the military, I would have turned into just another miserable, awful person. I, I just know it. I saw it happening to myself slowly. I I knew I had to do something. Something was wrong. I just a lot of what I've been talking about is something that I have done. I have made a lot of these mistakes. I have neglected myself for so long. And through a bunch of factors that I don't feel like getting into right now, I was awakened, so to speak. Thank you so much for watching. Feel free to comment your thoughts. And I'd love to hear your takes. I love other perspectives, I think it's very important. I think this kind of stuff is very important. Please, if you may, have a wonderful day. Stay safe out there and embrace your life, before it's too late. Bye bye.